Week 2 starts with Clutch Gaming versus Counter Logic Gaming, but not until the tailgating ends. We had dogs sporting jerseys and teams giving away some swag. You know that dog?
That's Steve's dog.
That's Steve's dog. Echo Fox as well, taking part in the tailgating. All of the teams looking to support their fans as the fans rather support them. But Dardoch and the rest of Echo Fox, big game today, looking to take down Cloud9 in Game 3, while the day starts with CLG and Huhi looking to defeat the Clutch Gaming squad. Hello everyone, I'm James Dash Patterson, hoping that Mark Zimmerman and Joshua Jat Leesman can step up their predictions game with our matchups today. You think you got it?
Yeah.
No.
A mix of confidence coming from these two. We'll find out soon enough. We'll see how their crystal balls fare as we kick things off with Clutch Gaming versus Counter Logic Gaming, followed by TSM looking to add a game to the win column versus Optic Gaming, and then two undefeated teams face off in Cloud9 versus Echo Fox. Make sure to stay tuned for Game 5, where Huhi and Sneaky join Freak in the NALCS Lounge to cover Golden Guardians versus FlyQuest on Riot Games 2. Make sure to tweet your league and even non-league related questions for the duo to @LOL Esports with the hashtag NALCS, and they'll answer some throughout the cast. Before we get into the first matchup of the day, Clutch Gaming's coach, David Lim, shared his thoughts on the team's foundation and where they're going.
So it's a really, really strong base. I felt like we got the good core from Envy, and we upgraded our solo lanes. They are actually very solid, and not only that, they're really willing to learn. So I see a lot of growth and potential in them. It's not one person that's the leader, and all 5 people really do need to communicate for League of Legends to work. But Lyra kind of leads with this play, and when he does say something, everyone listens, and we'll know kind of how our next 30 seconds to 1 minute is going to play out. And then Febby and Apollo are actually very vocal, and they're kind of the vocal leaders and the discussion starters and the pre-planners, and they kind of make sure that everyone's on the same page with what we want to do.
I mean, to be frank, that falls in line with a lot of what was said at the beginning of the split with regards to this roster. You got 3/5 of Envy, and it's a solid core, but now it's about incorporating the other two and cleaning up the communication and the way they work together.
Yeah, and I do kind of hear that they have a system that's working right now, but it's not ideal. If you're going to have a guy leading through his play, it would be nice if he was communicating that play as well instead of everyone having to follow along.
Oh, yeah, they said, like, you know, he speaks up, and when he does, everyone listens, but you want him to be probably one of the more vocal members of the team, given that he's probably the best player on the team.
All right, but considering the performances of both these squads, CLG, Clutch Gaming from week 1, CLG knocked down a page, Clutch Gaming sitting at 1-1. I kind of want to look at their matchup today with that context.
And I think that's the thing is when you say, oh yeah, we imported the Envy core, the good parts, and now we got stronger solo laners. Unfortunately, week 1 actually looked a fair amount kind of like what you saw out of Envy, where there was a good game that they won where the solo laners were playing great, and then the game they lost, both of them kind of got pushed in and destroyed by their counterparts. And that was always the problem, was it's hard to win a lot of games if your solo laners can't hold their own, at least go even most of the time.
Yeah, when I look at that dual lane as well, Apollo and Hakuo consistently have leads in lane, but they also aren't usually late game carries, so they're going to have that work for them as well.
Well, what about on the flip side, CLG? This is a team that a lot of people are hot on, saying they will finish in the top half, maybe even top 3. Well, they're sitting at 0-2 at the conclusion of week 1, Jat.
Hey, man. There's a lot of great teams around the world that haven't started well. SKT's 1-3. G2 is 1-3 over in Europe. Just saw that game.
So we're putting CLG and SKT in the same boat? Is that what we're doing right now, Jack?
Not quite. As far as not having their intended performance is what I'll say.
All right, fair enough.
There were a few things that worked for CLG last week. I did think Reignover and Darshan played pretty well, especially early on in the game. And best of ones are a highly volatile beast. And they played against Zilean in the first game against C9, and they played as Zilean in the next game. And that pick just didn't work for them one way or the other. It didn't look like they were very experienced with Zilean in the game. And I think that did cost them a lot of those games. But then the one thing that I'm not willing to write off was Stixxay's performance in week 1, where I thought he was pretty consistently weak and out of position.
And that's, like Jad was saying, kind of concerning going up against Apollo and Hakuho, because while they might not be the scariest late game threats, in lane they are very, very good opponents, and they will always push you to your max. Make sure you're playing the matchups correctly, because if you don't, they'll punish you.
Some initial thoughts on that bot lane matchup. To get more thoughts on the bot lane matchup, let's go ahead and throw it over to Azael and Freak, who'll be bringing you the cast in not too long. Hey guys, good to see your smiling faces. How do you feel about the bot lane matchup that we're just about to see?
Feeling pretty good. Honestly, I think these are two very good bottom lanes. First, to talk about the CLG duo. Stixxay was, I think, insane in 2016. I think he was maybe, top 2 in the role or whatever. His 2017 wasn't quite as good. I think the Hakuho Apollo duo is super, super strong. I thought they were at least top 4 for pretty much the entirety of last year. Talked with Afremu as well on the LCS Lounge stream last Saturday, and he said his top 3 bottom lanes were his own with Cody Sun, and the CLG duo and the X-Envy duo here with Clutch Gaming. So he thinks they're super, super good, and I'm excited to see them play out.
Azael, how do you align with Afremu's statement there on the top 3 bot lanes? Okay, good. Okay, great.
I mean, I don't really see how you can say, oh, these are the top 3 bot lanes without including either TSM's bot lane as Venomithi, yes, they had a weak start, or the TL bot lane of Doublelift and Olay, who looked great, right? Like, these are such talented players. To just completely discount them in the top 3 is concerning. And to your point, Stixxay was incredible in 2016. You're thinking of MSI, you're thinking of the CLG Championship, but it's been quite a while since he has really maintained that dominant form, and that was with Afremu. Biofrost looked good last year, but that was with Doublelift. They're now kind of without their superstar counterparts, and we have to see if they can prove themselves as their own bot lane and really make a name for themselves without that superstar with them.
All right, so if they want to be considered a top 3 bot lane, they got to show it to us today. Thank you so much, Freak and Azael. We'll see you guys in just a bit for the cast. Now, those teams are going to duke it out in just about 23 minutes. Let's take a look at what they're fighting for as we pull up the standings, rather. Counterlogic Gaming has yet to pick up a win, and Clutch Gaming are sitting at 1-1, while we have 4 teams sharing first place at 2-0. So I'd like to take a look at those teams at the top and ask whether their first place spot is deserved. Up first, Echo Fox, contender or pretender?
Stuff like this happens every year, where you have a bunch of teams at the top of the standings, and who is going to be there at the end? Will they be fighting for first? And I think after 1 week of knowledge that Echo Fox can actually contend for first place. We have Huni, who was a world finalist last year and previously dominated the NALCS, as well as a bunch of other players who've shown hints of brilliance but never be able to put it together. And we're talking a lot about 2016 today for some reason, but this team reminded me of 2016 Immortals, who, if we remember, went 17-1 in the spring split.
Yeah, and they absolutely have no problem matching up against anybody in terms of individual skill. Can they match the team synergy that Team Liquid is showing, those kinds of things? Those are the concerns I think people have. But in terms of skill, yeah, absolutely contenders.
Up against
Their
one of
schedule
our...
gets a lot harder.
I was about to say, up against one of our undefeated teams in Cloud9 later today. Before we get to the discussion around that squad, I want to talk 100 Thieves, also sitting at 2-0, one of our new orgs. What are our thoughts here?
I know, I said I was hot on these guys last week, and I still am, but in the perspective of being a playoff team, I do not think that they are a contender right now. I think they're a pretender. There's a lot of things that go well with this team that you like, a lot of veteran leadership and all that, but can they match up to the mechanical prowess that a lot of these other top teams have? I'm still hesitant on that.
Yeah, I think they're good, but I don't have them in the conversation for best team in the league.
Right.
And that average game time does go towards that, especially with that first game against Optic, who a lot of people expected them to beat much more handily. And their schedule as well gets a lot tougher this week. So we're going to get very quick answers to these questions.
All right, moving right along. Cloud9, one of the 2-0 orgs up against Echo Fox today, but an endemic org, one that we have expectations for.
Yeah, and the expectation I thought was that they lost the offseason.
Oh, I heard that too,
Yeah.
Jad. That was the rumor.
Yeah, it's
That
not
was
the off
contracts.
season.
Yeah,
It's not the
well,
off season anymore.
It's the real season, and especially in the second game of the week against Golden Guardians, Licorice looked really good. So if he's performing, we said he was one of our players to watch last week, this team is actually super good. Jensen, Sneaky, Smoothie, that bottom lane core of the map is Worlds contenders, 1 game away from being Worlds semifinalists. We know they can bring it.
Right.
So if they're clicking like that, I think they are in conversation for first place.
We talk about Clutch's
They're
core.
contenders.
Cloud9's got a great core, but to your point around Licorice, featured matchup later today against Huni, former Worlds finalist. So we'll get a lot of information out of that matchup as to how exactly he'll slot into the top laners in the North American LCS.
Right, so I'm going with Chad as well, contender on this one. The thing that I would be hesitant about is just that both their wins came with some tricky picks in the draft. They've been out drafting people. Will that keep up, or can they win from more even positions?
Alrighty, our final team to talk talk about Team Liquid 2-0. A lot of people say they won the offseason, Jet, and they're currently winning the season as well.
It's hard to argue. They finished 9th place both splits in 2017, and now they are contenders this year. They destroyed TSM in the first game. They had a small amount of struggle against Optic before coming together in the late game with an inferior composition. And because of the experience on this team and how much synergy they seem to have from day one, they are absolutely contenders.
You gotta spend money to make money. They spent a lot of money this offseason.
Do they make?
They're winning games.
All
and
right,
that
yeah,
leads
there
to
we go.
money
They're
or
on their
something
way.
like that.
They're
You
on
know,
their way, right?
It's a euphemism. It applies. They're contenders for sure.
Just let it be. Let it be. All right, well, now comes a time where I have to step out of my comfort zone a little bit here and hand over the reins to Jat for a new segment entitled Jat Stats.
Yeah, man, I spend a lot of time just looking at statistics, and I feel like it's more than you guys.
Nerd,
So I have some that I think are interesting.
Okay.
So you need to guess the player. I'm going to give you the stat. 52.9% of his team's deaths, most deaths of NALCS players.
In week 1.
Who am I? Yes.
Week 1.
First 2 games.
Has to be on the losing team.
So it's got to be on an
52.9% of
0-2
his team's deaths and
team,
most deaths.
which would be, I'm going to go with somebody on Optic, so Power Vivo.
I was gonna go with Mike Young.
Sven Skaren.
He's still doing it.
Damn it!
The most deaths. He has 9
Sven
deaths.
Skaren?
And because the team wasn't dying, it's such a high percentage.
That's what I was
Oh,
thinking.
the
Yeah, because
COG
Bjerg
game, he
didn't
died
die.
a bunch.
See,
Yeah.
all right, we got to get us more thought. He got us with the percentage. It was a
All right,
percentage
well,
stat.
And the most deaths
And, he's
Yeah.
got the absolute most deaths
of anyone in
league.
the NALCS. All right, I got one
That's
more for you.
impressive to be 2-0 with most deaths.
This support is not a top 3 support pick-wise in the LPL or EU. Remember, LPL's played a ton of games, but is the most picked support in the NALCS.
So this is a champion.
Yep.
Most picked support in NA, but not
top
three
three in LPL
or EU.
Yeah.
We still playing Braum. Is Alistair?
I was gonna say Alistar. Yeah.
Tarek.
Tarek.
Really? I
The
feel like we've
most
seen a
picked in
decent
week 1.
amount.
7 picks.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's fair. Oh, I was going the inverse. My bad. I feel like I've seen a lot of Alistair.
okay.
There's a bunch
Yeah.
of cop-outs.
All
I
right.
got it wrong. There was a confusing
Like the
question.
story, man.
Teacher,
Whatever.
can I get
We'll
partial
get better
credit?
at it.
Anyway,
We'll
0
get
for
better
2.
at this, I promise. Or maybe we won't.
Yeah, maybe I'll make it easier next week. We'll
Who
see.
knows? All right, well, we're going to step away for a quick second. When we return, we'll listen in on what the players were saying in Team Liquid versus TSM from week 1. Chat about who needs to step up this week and engage the win conditions for Clutch Gaming and CLG. Don't touch that browser. No, I'm serious. I feel like... Week 2 starts with Clutch Gaming versus Counter Logic Gaming, but not until the tailgating ends. We had dogs sporting jerseys and
Gioba.
teams giving away some swag. You know that dog?
That's Steve's dog.
Oh, that's Steve's dog. Echo Fox as well, taking part in the tailgating. All of the teams looking to support their fans as the fans rather support them. But Dardock and the rest of Echo Fox, big game today, looking to take down Cloud9 in Game 3, while the day starts with CLG and Huhi looking to defeat the Clutch Gaming squad. Hello, everyone. I'm James Dash Patterson, hoping that Mark Zimmerman and Joshua Jat Leesman can step up their predictions game with our matchups today. You think you got it?
Yeah.
No.
A mix of confidence coming from these two. We'll find out soon enough. We'll see how their crystal balls fare as we kick things off with Clutch Gaming versus Counter Logic Gaming, followed by TSM looking to add a game to the win column versus Optic Gaming, and then 2 undefeated teams face off in Cloud9 versus Echo Fox. Make sure to stay tuned for Game 5, where Huhi and Sneaky join Freak in the NALCS Lounge to cover Golden Guardians versus FlyQuest on Riot Games 2. Make sure to tweet your league and even non-league related questions for the duo to @LOL Esports with the hashtag NALCS, and they'll answer some throughout the cast. Before we get into the first matchup of the day, Clutch Gaming's coach, David Lim, shared his thoughts on the team's foundation and where they're going.
So it's a really, really strong base. I felt like we got the good core from Envy, and we upgraded our solo lanes. They are actually very solid, and not only that, they're really willing to learn. So I see a lot of growth and potential in them. It's not one person that's the leader, and all 5 people really do need to communicate for League of Legends to work. But
Welcome back to the North American LCS Countdown, where we're about 14 minutes away from kickoff. Before we start week 1, or rather, week 2. This is week 2.
Yeah.
Let's take a listen to the comms and what they were like, rather, in that first game of the split as we welcome back Mike Check.
Get this show on the road. I need to hit Diamond 5 in solo queue already.
Same.
I hope they're making bets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you guys have so many flags.
Pretty low. Trust my GP, guys. I can carry.
Press my mouse hard. I can press R.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go. Use him!
Use them.
Yeah,
Hey, they're
if
looking.
they go for Dragon, we can just
Yeah,
burn.
yeah, I think they're looking Dragon.
Okay, they will get full Baron tempo. Do we have orbs? Yeah, we have one.
I don't have one.
I don't have one. I have cooldown. I think don't go. They're starting.
Okay, we have to walk up. We have to walk up.
Go, 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 go. They can do it really fast.
ulti? I can ulti is in.
Not that
I'm just gonna ulti for vision.
Okay.
Oh, I don't have ulti for 1 second.
They're gonna end. They're gonna end the thing.
It's 4 kills. 4 kills. 4 kills. We can buy. We can buy. We can buy. We can buy. No.
Shyvana.
I'm looking here.
Shyvana.
I'm gonna ulti out.
And then Baron.
Hey, Kalista. Kalista, it's slow. Baron. Okay, I'm back.
Yo, I'm gonna stay on the right side now, and you guys go in the alley on the left, okay? I'm just gonna go opposite of the alley.
Okay.
He's the only one who
He's gonna flash on you, okay?
Yeah, I know.
Follow up.
I'm gonna ulti out people.
It's time. Go. This is
Hey, light
good.
HBO. Light HBO.
No.
I'm gonna ulti. No. Not dead. I'm looking. Go Kalista after. Go Kalista.
Okay, Kalista no flash.
Okay, we can end. Just mid. And that.
Good job.
Good job, guys. Good.
Wait, Eugene, you're right. We are fucking beast.
A little bit insight into the comms of both of these teams from week 1. I will say that although there was clear communication from both squads, it seemed like Team Liquid operating just a slight percentage better and cleaner.
Yeah, obviously some of that's going to happen with it being easier to shot call from ahead than from behind. But when we talk about that team having synergy from day 1, the comms already pretty clean.
I like TSM's comms too when they were talking about the Baron situation. It just broke down when it got to execution, where like Baron, Bjergsen used the ult to scare them off Baron, but then Mike Young still took it, and it was a good idea where they're like, we have blue trinkets, we'll try and trade for the dragon and scare them off. Just didn't work out when they played it.
Opening weekend is behind us, and eyes will be on many players to step up. So for week 2, here are our ones to watch. We have Licorice, Stixxay, Mithy, Onda, and Cody Sun. First up, C9's top laner, Licorice.
Yeah, and he has a tall order this week with the top laner he's playing against. He's playing against Huni and Someday. But after the first game last week, he really stepped up in his game against Golden Guardians. Tons of pled roams, really actually carried that game in a lot of ways. And if he is going to be a top lane carrier for Cloud9, that team is super good, which is why we have to keep our eyes on him this week.
Yeah, I think I was saying that he's one of the most important players in the league just in terms of how it's going to stack up. If he's able to compete against the people that he's playing this weekend, then C9 looks like a top team, and if they can't, they're going to have a hard time pushing other teams to their limits.
Yep. Next up, a guy that we've got questions about, CLG's Stixxay.
Yeah, talked a lot about this guy already. He was such a beast in 2016. But that was 2 years ago. He needs to show a larger performance. Wake up, get into the game. I do love that picture.
Wake up, Stixxay!
Yeah. they
isn't that
they
unfair?
can draft around him. They have the mechanics in that lane. If they want to crash bottom lane, they can. He's shown it before, but he just really is pivotal to their success because they need multiple carry threats.
That's always the concern with that bot lane. Even when it was still with Afromu, there were some games where they just kind of got blown out of the water, and they need to start becoming way more consistent so the top side of the map, which has a lot of playmakers in it, have that freedom.
Next up, one of our imports from EU, TSM's Mithy, was supposed to help with communication for this roster.
And he has a lot of pressure on him, and in that mic check, you could hear that he is still a very vocal member of the team, but there's still clear synergy issues with everybody else. So you want to see him keep being a vocal leader, keep getting them to make moves on the map, and then the rest of the team follows up correctly.
Yeah, and they let go Biofrost and said it was because of communication. So they need to show better communication in game. No matter what's happening, Mithy will have to step up as some type of a leader. Won 3 European titles in a row, is coming to a team that's won 3 North American titles in a row. They can't be looking like they don't have communication with this guy on that roster.
Anecdotally, one of the smartest players that I've ever had the pleasure of interacting with.
Yeah,
now it's about bringing
absolutely.
that intelligence, those smarts on the Rift to the team and picking up some wins. Next up, FlyQuest Onda, one of our rookies who really impressed last week in their victory.
Breakout performance against TSM in their first victory. Huge kill participation, great Zac play, really made the smart call instead of going over aggressive, was able to play this game out in a long fashion, and absolutely a guy we have to keep our eyes on to see if he can continue his performance.
He was someone that drew Flame's attention as well. That's one of the key players that Flame wanted to play with this season. They got him, and now we're starting to see why Flame holds him in such high regard.
All right, last but certainly not least, 100 Thieves, Cody's son.
And he is the guy who's supposed to be a huge beast in the ball lane. Afro was talking about how much he learns from him, and he has had his ups and downs over the course of his career. First with Immortals didn't look great. Second split, much better. Worlds had a bit of a oopsie moment.
A little oopsie.
Yeah.
Minor, it could happen to anyone.
So
really,
what we want to see is that consistency that we're liking to see out of 6A, but kind of similarly here with Cody's son, where he continues to put in strong performances.
and he had a really good week 1. So gotta
Had a
watch
really
him
good
to
week
see
one.
if
You gotta keep pushing it forward. Now, time for my favorite part of the day, prediction time. But due to your performances in week 1, gentlemen, we decided to bring in another professional for our predictions. This time from a very trusted source, George Washington. As you can see here, Mark's predictions, Jack predictions for the day, as well as their season totals, and the coin, as he submitted his predictions from earlier today.
Mark's buying Foxcoin? I thought
buying
I was the only one on Foxcoin.
I've flipped my position, you know, buy low.
The coin is not on Foxcoin.
No.
No, you just buy high, man. They're
Yeah,
2-0. You just bought in
I'm
on
gonna crash.
Foxcoin very high.
Don't listen to me.
I did notice a discrepancy in the very first game of the day. Clutch Gaming CLG, though, between the two of you. Jat still riding that CLG train, even on the 0-2 week 1.
Yeah, so when I'm doing predictions, much like if you're playing fantasy sports, you don't get rid of all your good players and all your preseason expectations after the first week.
I do.
You should. You should not. You should not.
No, I know.
But really, I did see things that were promising to me about CLG, and I still believe in this roster. I am probably going to pick CLG every game until at least week 4.
Wow.
Right?
Or
That's what I'm going to
until they
reset
win.
my
Team Liquid, like, I don't know. That's ballsy, but I would
see.
say for me, Clutch Gaming, I liked what I saw week 1. They had a rough time versus Echo Fox, but we're talking about this team being a contender now. So if that's the opinion that we're holding, I don't think that loss is too brutal for them. And then their win was very dominant. So I'm still a little on the fence to them, where CLG didn't really impress me at all.
I'm really surprised you picked Clutch. This will be fun.
Yeah, let's have some
And I'm
fun.
surprised you picked Echo Fox. I thought I was going to keep
I told you,
picking Echo
I
Fox.
admit that I undervalued how good
You picked
Huni is. How
FlyQuest over
dominant.
them.
That's the one that surprised me, was the Echo Fox call
Oh,
here from. I will point out that
Their red
coin,
side.
the coin called Optic Gaming over TSM, so the coin predicts an 0-3 start to the season. I want to challenge you guys. Justify the coin's pick for Optic over TSM.
I think it's actually super justifiable. I was worried about a lot of the coin's choices because I do not want to lose to a coin. And
it's
there was a lot of
possible
close
today.
matchups, and specifically the coin is going to be willing to pick an upset.
Yes.
Right? These are 2 0-2 teams, let's not forget. And Optic had closer games than TSM did in the first week. They have a former MVP as an AD carry, which doesn't happen on TSM. And they have a mid laner who is 6-1 all-time against Bjergsen in Power of Evil. There's a lot of ingredients for an upset in that matchup.
Hashtag coin win. Let's go.
No.
I want to see.
No.
I want to see tears from my analyst by the end of the day. And while we referenced that CLG and Clutch Gaming matchup, and CLG looking to pick up their first win, we decided to talk to Rainover, who shared what it's like to face his former teammate, Febivan.
First of all, I'm very excited to face them, especially Febivan. Him and I are still really close, and I think I would like to gank mid a little slightly more against him. And I'm pretty sure Feviven is an aggressive player, so he'll die to most of my ganks. And I know it.
I mean, that's interesting because we've talked a lot about the duo, the jungle mid duo on the other side of the matchup for Clutch Gaming. And so with about 5 minutes left to go for Champion Select of Game 1, I want to ask you guys which of these, or rather what these teams need to focus on if they want to pick up the win. So we're doing win conditions again. Jat, as you've been hot on CLG all season long, I'm going to have you argue for Clutch Gaming.
Yeah, believe me, the doubt in my mind makes this no problem. As far as how Clutch Gaming would be to justify it. Yeah, absolutely. So we already know Febiven and Lyra are both super good.
Yeah.
We've also seen the way COG got Darshan ahead in their first game last week and couldn't snowball through Rainover and Darshan. So if Clutch Gaming just spends all of their draft getting a jungle mid duo that wins, you play around that mid lane, and with the current performances of COG's bottom lane with Stixxay, if Febiven and Lyra take control of the mid lane, he won't be able to win the game for COG, and Clutch Gaming might end up winning off that. Throw everything at mid lane for Clutch is their win condition.
All right, Jazz looking at the mid lane. How about for the side of CLG? Rainover hinted at maybe putting attention towards the mid, but do you agree there?
I mean, you obviously want to put some attention there so that you don't have Lyra and Febiven running wild over you. But for me, I think the two things that they should focus on, get Darshan going and stabilize your bot lane. While I agree that they didn't win when they snowballed topside, the bigger problem for me was just that draft and how strong the Zilean pick was into so much of what CLG comp was trying to do. So even though they did snowball, the comp was at a disadvantage from the very get-go. So I don't worry about that too much. Darshan has an advantage here against solo. That's one of the most abusable places on the map for Clutch Gaming this entire time. And then you just have to worry about your bot lane. You can't get blown up like they did in their second game. So make sure you know that you just play the matchup, get a stable matchup. And against Apollo and Hakuho, they're not so explosive that they can blow you open from there, quite like what happened against 100 Thieves.
Jat, top of the day, you talked about some drafting issues for CLG from week 1. I want to kind of dive into that a little bit. Are the issues that you identified champion to player, right? So that the player picked for the champion and the player not being able to pilot it? Or is it more the way that the champions, you know, as a group of 5 were picked together and maybe not having win conditions that support a CLG victory?
Yeah, so without getting too in the weeds, COG's first game against Cloud9 was Ornn in the top lane, who they ended up snowballing to get ahead thanks to Rainover camping that lane. And after that, they were meant to be a pick composition with Malzahar and then get turret dives off of that.
Right.
They were not expecting Zilean to be played against him, so that caught them by surprise, and their compositions, win conditions, were already set by the time the Zilean blocked it. Right? So what happened then the next game is they're like, man, that was easy for Jensen to counter with Zilean. Give them Malzahar, we'll pick Zilean, they can't pick us off, we'll win. But they weren't practiced on that strategy. So I feel like they got caught by surprise and then tried to do it without enough practice. Now, hopefully, with 6 days to rest, recuperate, recover, all those great things, that doesn't happen again.
I mean, the thing is, you had Jensen on Zilean, and he was able to force flashes 1v1, get a solo kill versus Huhi, and that wasn't the same performance when they started trying to play it. So that was a bit of a concern, but I think there were so many other comp problems in that game. Talk about the Ornn. There's a Braum on the other side, which is the kind of best out of lane support you can pick into Ornn because it negates his 30-second cooldown ult engage that is so powerful and one of the reasons you pick Ornn.
And also, away from the win conditions, I'm still arguing for COG now.
Yeah, what happened?
I trust Zix enough that those drafting mistakes will quickly be corrected. Week 1 draft reads are much more difficult than week 2 draft reads after you've seen what the best shot a team has. And COG usually adjusts to that. Whereas you have the core of Envy on this Clutch Gaming team whose drafts were usually bad last year. And I know David Lim has been around for a while, but I haven't seen great draft adaptation from his teams in the past. So I am hoping that COG wins draft.
I mean, it's something to be said, right? That Zix's presence not be understated as a coach, right? This guy has been looked at as one of the premier coaches in the North American LCS for so long. So you want to believe that with time, week over week, right? He will whip this CLG roster into shape.
Am I allowed to flaunt my win condition now? My argument for Clutch Gaming?
All right, say whatever you want to say.
Lyra is a better jungler than Rainover, so one of those advantages that you talk about, it's basically true.
Last year he was.
Yeah, absolutely last year.
2016 though.
He wasn't in the league. The point would be if what they did in the C9 game was so impressive. Was Reignover just taking advantage of Svenskeren and constantly going in for these cycles of abuse that happen in the top side. That won't happen versus Lira, I'm pretty sure. He won't make the initial mistake that set that up and then won't keep falling into the same trap. So that's my concern, is that what is good for CLG was Reignover's early game won't work against Clutch.
A lot of different factors that could swing this matchup. Either way, it's an exciting one to kick the day off with. We're going to throw it over to Azael and Freak to get the games underway.